sun hung low, casting golden rays through the tall studio windows. And the air buzzed softly with the hum of camera lights and whispered directions. Armas stood at the center of the set, eyes focused, hands clenched behind her back. It had been a long shoot, almost 16 hours, and her body felt the weight of every minute. But she didn't say a word, not even when her vision began to blur. Keanu Reeves stood just off camera. He wasn't part of the scene, not today, but he had stayed. He often did. People assumed it was because of friendship or maybe quiet loyalty. But the truth was deeper. He had seen something in Anna, a kind of silent strength wrapped in fragility that reminded him of someone he lost long ago. As the director called out another take, Anna smiled. Her steps were steady at first. But then, without warning, her knees buckled. Her hand reached for the edge of the table near her, but it slipped away. The room turned cold in a second, gasps flying through the air as she collapsed onto the studio floor. Everyone froze. Not because they didn't care, because they didn't know how to move, except Keanu. He was already running. Within seconds, he was at her side, gently lifting her head, his voice soft and calm. "Breathe, Anna. Stay with me. You're okay." Her eyes fluttered open, just a little, and she whispered something he couldn't understand. Her skin was pale, her lips dry. Keanu looked around, panic rising beneath his calm tone. Someone call a medic. Now. But what truly shocked everyone was not that he helped. It was how he held her, not as a co-star, not as a friend, but like someone who had promised to never let another soul break in front of him again. While the crew scrambled for help, Keanu didn't move, whispered to her gently, telling her she was safe, that she had done more than enough, that she didn't need to prove anything. The medic arrived 10 minutes later. Anna had fainted from exhaustion, the doctor said, but something inside Keanu told him it was more. Something was breaking beneath her surface, and no one else seemed to see it later that evening. As Anna rested in the back of the trailer, Keanu waited outside. He didn't go home, didn't call anyone. He just sat on the steps, quietly watching the wind move through the trees. Replaying that moment again and again in his mind, he remembered the way her fingers trembled before she fell. And he made a decision. He would not let her carry this alone anymore. The next morning, Anna woke up with a blanket wrapped around her and a note beside her pillow. The handwriting was calm and steady. "Take your time. You don't know the world anything. But if you ever need someone to walk with you in the dark, I'm here." Keanu, she read it twice. Then once more, and for the first time in weeks, she cried. Not because she was scared, but because someone had finally seen, or someone had stayed. And it wasn't just anyone. It was him. Keanu Reeves in Hollywood had no idea what was about to unfold. That she needed rest. Others said she might be leaving the project altogether, but none of them knew the truth. Behind her closed trailer door, Anna sat. On the floor, hugging her knees to her chest. The sunlight tried to peek through the window, but she kept the curtains shut. She didn't want light. She didn't want attention. She just wanted quiet. But in that quiet, her thoughts got louder. She thought about the months leading up to this film. The pressure, the constant travel, the loneliness in hotel rooms. The way people smiled at her on red carpets but never really asked if she was okay. Even on her best days, she felt like she was performing a version of herself. She wasn't sure who she really was anymore. Then there was the guilt. She had grown up fighting for every role, for every bit of respect. And now that she was finally seen, finally accepted, she felt like she was falling apart, like she was letting everyone down. And she hated herself for it, until she remembered the note. It was still beside her pillow, untouched. She had read it. Too many times to count, but the paper stayed crisp, as if she was scared to wear out the only kind thing she'd received in weeks. Keanu had seen her, not just her talent or her fame, but her pain, and he had stayed. On the third morning, she opened her trailer door and found him sitting on the steps again, just like before. He wasn't scrolling through his phone. He wasn't trying to talk. He was just ... there. You don't have to do that, Anna said softly. He looked up and gave her a small smile. I know. What are you here? He paused before answering, because sometimes silence needs company too. Anna blinked back tears. Those words hit deeper than he probably realized. Do you want to walk? He asked gently. She nodded. They walked without speaking for almost 10 minutes. Just the sound of their shoes on gravel, the soft rustling of trees around them. It wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. When they reached the edge of the studio lot, Keanu finally spoke again. I know what it feels like, he said quietly. What? Be strong for everyone. To hide it all behind a smile, and then one day your body just says, enough. Anna didn't reply. Her throat was too tight. He continued, you don't need to be okay right now, but you don't have to go through it alone either. She stopped walking, stood still in the middle of the path. She looked at him, really looked at him. Not as a movie star, not as a colleague, but as someone who had scars too. How do you do it? She asked. How do you keep going? Keanu looked down, then back up at her. I stop pretending. I have to be perfect, and I lean on people when I need to. Anna gave a small laugh. I don't think I've ever done that. Not really. Maybe it's time you start. For the first time in days, Anna felt something shift inside her. Not a full recovery. Not a miracle, but a beginning. Later that night, she texted him for the first time. Thank you for waiting, he replied almost instantly. I wasn't waiting. I was walking beside you. I still am. I sat in silence for a long time after. That, the phone resting on her lap, maybe it wasn't about being strong anymore. Maybe it was about letting herself be seen, and the world would soon see a side of her they'd never imagined. The cameras still clicked. The crew still moved quickly from one corner to another, calling out times and angles and retakes. But something inside Anna felt different. She walked back onto set 3 days after her collapse, and though the makeup team did their best to hide the tiredness beneath her eyes, nothing could hide what she had been through. The whispers followed her like shadows, quiet, harmless on the surface, but heavy in their own way. She's back. Do you think she's okay? Heard Keanu stayed the whole time. Anna didn't let any of it touch her face. She smiled politely, nodded when needed, said her lines with grace. But deep down, she was still trembling. And Keanu, he didn't hover, didn't treat her like someone who had broken. Instead, he treated her the same as before, with quiet kindness, with steady presence. Never pushing too far, never walking away too soon. During breaks, he'd sit near her without saying much. Sometimes he offered a bottle of water. Sometimes just a look that said, I'm still here. One afternoon, as they rehearsed a key scene together, one filled with emotional intensity, Anna found her hands shaking again. The scene was supposed to show her character breaking down, but the tears that welled up weren't acting. They were real, painful. She tried to stop them, but couldn't. The director shouted, "Cut," thinking she had gone too far, but Keanu stepped in before anyone else could speak. Give her a minute, he said gently, his voice calm but firm. Anna turned away, covering her face. She was embarrassed, ashamed. But when she felt a hand on her shoulder, steady, warm, she didn't pull away. You're doing more than just acting, Keanu said softly. You're telling the truth. That's rare. Don't be ashamed of it. She looked at him through blurred eyes. But they don't understand. They don't have to, he replied. You do, and that's enough. Those words stayed with her for the rest of the day. And when filming resumed, something inside her unlocked. Her performance wasn't just strong, it was haunting. It left the crew silent, the director stunned later. As they wrapped for the night, one of the assistant producers walked up to Keanu. She's different, he said. Keanu nodded. She's always been like this. People are just seeing it now. But not everyone liked what they saw. A well-known gossip site posted a headline the next morning. Ana de Armas cracks on set. Insiders worry she's unstable. Anna saw it while sipping her tea, and her hands went cold. The article talked about her collapse, her tears during the scene. and hinted that she might be too fragile to handle pressure. She stared at the screen for a long time then, without a word. She stood up, walked outside her trailer, and found Keanu sitting under the same tree as always. She handed him the phone. He read it slowly, then gave it back. "Do you want me to say something?" he asked. "No," she said. "I just needed someone else to see it." He nodded. "Then I've seen it. Now what do you want to do?" Anna looked up at the sky. It was soft and gray, clouds rolling in slowly. "I want to stop hiding," she whispered. "If the world wants to talk, let them. But I'm done letting them define me." Keanu smiled. "Then let's make sure they hear the truth, not the noise." Anna didn't know exactly what that meant yet, but something had changed. The first time in a long while, she felt the courage to speak with her own voice, and that voice would soon shake Hollywood. Quiet fire in her eyes. She hadn't slept much, but she had written something. Something honest. Something that had been sitting in her chest for years, waiting for the right moment to come out. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't crafted by a publicist. It was her. Her truth. Raw and untouched. Before filming began, she gathered the courage to hand the paper to the director. "I need to say this," she told him, "not as the character, as myself." He looked at her, confused at first, then nodded. Something in her tone made him listen. A few minutes later they paused. All filming crew members gathered, whispering to each other. No one really knew what was going on, only that Ana de Armas had asked for a moment. She stepped up in front of them, holding the folded piece of paper in her hand. Keanu stood quietly in the back, arms crossed, eyes steady. Ana took a breath, then spoke. "I know some of you saw me collapse last week," she began, her voice steady but soft. "I know some of you read what they wrote about me. And I know what some of you might be thinking, that I'm not strong enough, that I'm falling apart." She paused, looked down, then back up. "The truth is, I was falling apart. I've spent years pretending everything was fine, smiling when I felt like screaming, working through pain because I was scared someone would call me difficult or replaceable." The room was silent. Even the sound guys stopped checking their gear. "But I'm done hiding. I'm done performing strength. Because real strength, I'm learning, is asking for help when you need it. It's breaking down and choosing to get back up anyway." Her voice cracked a little, but she didn't stop. And the person who reminded me of that is someone I've watched quietly for years. Someone who has walked through fire without making noise. She looked over at Keanu. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't tell me to smile. He just stayed. Sometimes that's all someone needs. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the younger camera assistants clapped. Another followed, and soon the entire room was filled with quiet, respectful applause. Ana's hands trembled as she folded the paper and stepped back. She wasn't used to being seen like this, not as the star, not as the perfect actress, but as a person. And yet in that moment she felt lighter than she had in years. Afterwards, Keanu walked up to her outside the studio. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't." "No," she admitted. "But I'm not hiding anymore." He smiled. "That's more than okay." She reached out and took his hand just for a second. Not as a romantic gesture, but something deeper, something human, something real. He squeezed gently. "You're going to change people," he said quietly. "Maybe," she said. "First, I need to change myself." The days that followed were not easy. More gossip sites picked up her speech. Some twisted it. Others mocked it. But something else happened too. Messages began flooding her inbox. From other actresses, from young fans, even from people on the crew. "Thank you for saying what I couldn't. You helped me feel seen. I've been breaking in silence." "Too," Ana cried, reading them, not out of sadness, but because she realized she wasn't alone, and neither were they. Keanu noticed it too. One evening, as they sat near the studio gate watching the sky turn orange, he said softly, "You've started something." Ana looked at him, unsure. You reminded people it's okay to be human, he added. She leaned her head back, breathing in the cool evening air. Maybe Hollywood needs a little more of that. Keanu chuckled. Maybe the world does. As the stars began to appear above them, Anna knew something with all her heart. This was no longer just about a movie. It was about breaking the silence, and they were only just getting started. Event in Los Angeles. It wasn't the usual red carpet type, no flashing cameras, no designer gowns, just artists, filmmakers, and creators sitting in a circle, listening to each other's truths. When Anna first received the invitation, she hesitated. Her hands had started shaking again. The fear crept in, whispering, "What if you break again? What if no one listens this time?" She almost said no. But Keanu, standing across the room, simply said, "Your voice isn't just yours anymore. It belongs to people who've never been heard." Anna looked at him, eyes wide. His words settled something deep in her, so she said yes. On the day of the event, she wore no makeup. Her hair was tied back simply. She wasn't trying to be a star. She just wanted to be real. As she stepped onto the small stage, she looked around the room. A few familiar faces. Some new. And Keanu, as always, sitting quietly in the back row, hands folded, eyes steady. She took the mic. Her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not here to inspire," she began. "I'm here because I've been broken. I'm learning that it's okay to say that out loud." There was a pause. You could hear the sound of someone's pen stop mid-scribble. This industry taught me how to perform pain, but it didn't teach me how to live with it. Anna went on to share her journey, the weight of expectations, the nights she cried in silence, all the mornings she collapsed on set, and the quiet man who sat with her in that darkness. She didn't cry while speaking, but many in the room did. When she finished, she looked straight into the crowd. We are more than our roles, more than our image. And if we want this world to be gentler, we have to start by being honest with ourselves and with each other. As she stepped down from the stage, the applause didn't come all at once. Built slowly, like a wave rising from still water, Keanu was the first one standing. The next day, a video clip from her speech went viral. It wasn't planned. Someone in the room had recorded it quietly, then shared it with the caption, "Ana de Armas just gave the speech Hollywood didn't know it needed." Millions watched it. Some praised her, some questioned her, but all of them listened. Over the next few days, more celebrities came forward, some sharing stories of burnout, others simply reposting her words with silent respect. A shift was happening. Slow, quiet, but real. Meanwhile, on set, things began to change too. The atmosphere felt different. People spoke more gently. They checked in on each other. Even the director, once sharp and cold, now greeted everyone with a softer tone. Anna noticed it most in the small things, like the way the makeup artist asked her, "How are you really doing today?" Or how the lighting crew gave her a thumbs up after an emotional scene, not because she nailed the shot, but because they saw her effort. And through it all, Keanu stayed close, not hovering, just present. One evening, they sat on the rooftop of the studio, watching the city lights below, and the wind was soft, the kind that carries stories from one soul to another. Anna turned to him. "Did you ever think just being kind could do this much?" Keanu smiled faintly. "It's the only thing that ever really has." She looked at him for a long moment. "Why me?" she asked. "Why did you care so much when I fell?" He leaned back, eyes fixed on the sky. "Because I know what it's like to fall and find no one waiting." Anna's chest tightened, not out of pain, out of understanding. They didn't speak for a while after that. They didn't need to in that silence. A friendship deeper than fame was being carved into the stars, and the world, without realizing it, was watching a quiet revolution unfold. Down. Cameras stopped rolling, but something stayed behind. Not the lights or the glamour, but the feeling that something had changed. Anna stood quietly in the center of the now empty soundstage, looking around. This was where it had all happened. The breakdown, the turning point. The moment that felt like the end, but had really been the beginning. She walked slowly across the floor, her fingers brushing the air as if trying to hold on to something invisible. Then she heard footsteps. Keanu. He didn't say anything. He just stood beside her. They looked around together. Two people who had walked through something they couldn't explain, but both understood. They offered me another film, Anna said softly. Big one. Major studio. Lots of attention. Keanu glanced at her. Are you going to take it? She paused. I don't know yet. It's time I want to choose for the right reasons, not just because someone expects me to. He nodded. That's strength. Anna turned to face him. What about you? What's next? He smiled gently. Maybe rest. Maybe helping more people find their voice. I think there's power in silence. But there's even more power when someone chooses to break it. She looked at him with deep gratitude. You saved me, Keanu. He shook his head. No, I just stayed. You saved yourself. Weeks later, Anna sat across from a journalist in a quiet room. It wasn't a flashy interview, just a conversation, heart to heart. They asked her about the breakdown, about the viral speech, about Keanu. She answered all of it. Simply, honestly. People think strength is being unbreakable, she said. But strength is allowing yourself to break and letting others help you heal. The article went live the next day. The headline wasn't dramatic. It read, Anna de Armas chooses honesty over perfection, and Hollywood listens. Comments poured in from around the world. I'm not an actress, but this story made me feel seen. I thought I was alone. Now I know I'm not. Thank you for choosing truth. And to read them in silence. And then without hesitation, she forwarded the article to Keanu. No message, no emojis. Just a quiet thank you, he replied a few minutes later. This is just the beginning. Months passed. Anna launched a quiet wellness initiative for young artists, a space where people could speak openly, rest freely, and be surrounded by those who listened. She called it the Still Room, not because it was silent, but because it was safe. Keanu became one of its biggest supporters. Not with words, not with attention, but with action. He would show up at events, sit in the back, speak when needed, and always remind people that their value was never tied to how loud they were, how perfect they seemed, or how long they could. Keep smiling. One day, during a private event, a young actress stood up with trembling hands and said, I saw that video. The one where Anna spoke her truth. It made me believe I didn't have to hide anymore. Keanu looked across the room at Anna. She met his eyes. And without speaking, they both knew this was what it was all for. Not the awards, not the applause, but the moment someone found courage because they had once fallen too, and someone stayed on. A rainy evening in New York, Anna and Keanu sat near a small cafe window. Outside, the city lights danced through puddles. Inside, it was warm and quiet. Anna sipped her tea. You know, I used to think kindness was soft, weak, easy to ignore. Keanu chuckled. And now, she looked at him. Now I think it's the strongest thing anyone can choose. He smiled. Then let's keep choosing it. And just like that, the rain kept falling and the city kept moving, unaware that inside that quiet cafe, two people who once stood on screens had quietly shifted hearts far beyond Hollywood. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories don't end with a spotlight. They end with a hand held in the dark, a voice rising from silence, and the promise that kindness, when shared, becomes something unbreakable.